Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. So welcome to the very last session of this TechEd. Yay. No? Okay. It's a good thing that you are still here for the best session, of course. Yeah, okay. Let's be modest. Welcome to Lync Server Notes from the field. Allow me to present myself and my co-speaker who's standing next to me, as you can see. My name is Ilse van Kriekingen. I'm working as a technology advisor in Core UC. So Core UC means Exchange and Lync, and that is both Exchange and Lync on premises or online. And I do that at Microsoft Belgium, Luxembourg, and I'm sure you know where that is. That's beneath the Netherlands here. Try to blog from time to time. Got an email address, look at that. And I try to tweet as well. And next to me, Mike, are you going to introduce yourself?
My mic is on. I can do it myself, but I
don't
know.
You're
okay.
on.
So my name is Wesley Bakland, a colleague of Ilse, and speaking to the completely wrong audience, so that's always interesting. So I'm actually specialized in business intelligence and SQL Server, evil SQL Server. That's
Yes.
according to Ilse, at least.
Yeah, I'm a Jet girl. Doing Exchange, it's Jet.
So we don't like each other too much, but for sessions, we make exceptions. So, yeah, just like Ilse.
Now I need to continue. Okay.
Yeah, I blog too, but a lot less than I am on Twitter. 140 characters is a lot easier to do, so I'm mostly active on Twitter. But we do have a great blog post about our session, actually. So.
Yes, we do, but you need to say that in the end, because
Yes.
otherwise they walk out and read the blog post.
But you have resources,
Okay.
I hope.
Okay. So what's the session about? What I try to do is, being a technology advisor, what I do is I go out to customers and talk to them about the wonderful world of Exchange and Lync, and I try to, what our salespeople sell, try to prove that technically, what's really happening behind the hoods. So what I've done is I've tried to combine a few things, questions that come up every single time I go out to a customer and talk about Lync. Okay, so if there's anything missing, please feel free to come up after the session or during the session and ask your question. Sound good? Last chance to walk out? Okay. So introduction, communications today, what we see is, and I'm sure you've seen this slide, I'm sure you have. When you're thinking about Lync, when you're thinking about introducing unified communications in your organization, you're thinking about integrating IM, voicemail, calendaring into one system, into this, our solution, the Microsoft way of communicating, the future of communications as it is available already today. Unified inbox, you've got your Outlook. In your Outlook, you can see the presence information of other people in your organization. You can authenticate against Active Directory. You can administer it using the tools that you love, using the MMC snap-ins, using PowerShell, and using all that. You can use those tools. The storage is inside your AD, and for Lync, we are using SQL. Compliancy, you can actually keep up track of everything that's going on, using archiving, using auditing and stuff like that. So this is how we see unified communications. And as you can see, we offer that both on premises with you in the server room somewhere, or in the cloud, online, and that's in our data centers. And if you say, nah, not for me, I don't want to go online, I don't want to stay on, I really don't know what to do. You can actually go for the hybrid way, so that you keep some things on premises and that you move some stuff online. Now, if you're thinking, okay, on premises online, what's in it? Looking at Lync, is it everything? Is it nothing? Is it something in between? Well, have a look at this. I think you all know Office 365. Please say you do. Yes, okay, good. So you know that it's Office Professional Plus. You need to download it, but you can download it from Office 365 portal. Then you can use it to connect to Exchange online, SharePoint online, using your browser, using SharePoint Workspace, and you can use it to connect to Lync online. But what's in Lync online? Let's see. Lync is IM presence. Chatting, MSN chatting, conferencing, as we call it, online meetings, and it's voice. When you would think about Office 365 as your Lync solution, keep in mind that in Lync Online, you only have IM presence. Communication, you can federate with any other Lync Online tenant, with any other OCSR2 deployment, any other OCS deployment, you can do that. You can set up and schedule your conferences. Of course, you can do that using Outlook. You even have in Lync Online the web scheduler for Lync, which is enabled. But voice, as in, I'm sitting on my Lync server and I want to dial my home, I want to dial someone outside my organization, it's not in Lync Online. Lync Online is IM presence, conferencing, no voice. Yeah? I've split up the voice, the dial tone part, and the telephony infrastructure. Why is that? Because when you look at Lync on premises, you know it's a PBX replacement, or it can do quite a lot of things that a PBX can do for years already. We can do that now as well in Lync. It will never link online. Your voice will be there, your dial tone will be introduced. It will never be a PBX replacement, as in response groups, and the advanced features will not be there. They won't be available, not yet. Okay? As far as the dial tone is concerned, if you want to know, well, when will it be available? Well, when it's ready. It's an easy answer, but that's what it is. Have a look at partner sites like Jaja. They actually confirm that they are one of the partners that will work with us to offer you voice in Lync Online. And of course, with Lync on premises, you can do everything, what you mentioned. If you ever looked at going hybrid, Exchange on premises, Exchange online, you know it's rather easy to have some mailboxes on premises and to have some mailboxes online. Rather easy, just plug in a hybrid server, move the mailboxes, stuff like that, that's what you do. In Lync, it's different. If you would have a Lync server on premises, and if you would go for Lync online, you can move users online, but you cannot have a single namespace. So if you have your users in a Lync on premises, they will have a different SIP URI domain as the ones in Lync Online. You can federate Lync Online with Lync on premises, but you can have a shared namespace. Another thing you need to keep in mind, you can't say, yeah, well, you know what, let's play it easy. Let's put them in the cloud for IM and presence, and let's keep them on premises to give them an enterprise voice number. No, you can't do that. It's not possible. Can't do that. So what if you go hybrid, what would you do? Very nice slide, a lot to read, but you can download the slides, so no need to panic. Just keep in mind that when looking at Exchange, there are not as many differences as when looking at Lync. Most important one here is you need to have a Lync server on premises and you need to have a SharePoint server on premises to have skill search. You know what skill search is? It's a free thing you can download and install and deploy and configure, which enables you to search for a contact in Lync. So when I search for a contact, for example, I enter else, and I get a list of contacts of people in my company whose name starts with else. Yeah? But let's imagine I'm not looking for a person called else. I'm looking for someone who knows everything there is to know about Active Directory. So I can type in Active Directory. Don't think there is anyone called Active Directory inside your AZ. Well, I won't knock on it, but probably not, hopefully not. So what would you do? You could actually search in the skills that a person has populated in SharePoint. That's the skill search. I search for SharePoint, I search for Active Directory, and I get a list of users that have populated. They know everything about that in SharePoint. If you want that, Lync on-prem, SharePoint on-prem, and go for Exchange Online. There's nothing you're missing using Exchange Online or using Exchange on-prem, looking at Lync. Okay? Keep that in mind. So one step further. Looking at Lync, it's always very complicated. You go to customers and it's very easy to talk about it. It's IM presence, it's conferencing, and it's voice. Let me demo that for you. Easy, chatting, sharing a program, sharing something. Let's call someone, easy. And then it's like, what service do you need? And that's when it gets tricky. And that's when you need to think about it. It's a puzzle. Think about it like that. I've tried to picture this using a default setup. This is the IT Pro world, IT Pro, with a little internet, the big giant internet, DMZ, yeah, of course you can see the firewalls, yeah, your service, Active Directory, Exchange, whatever, your devices connecting to it. And in the bottom you can find the PSTN people, the ones responsible for years for managing the PBXs. That's what you have in a typical environment. Now you're going to introduce Lync. So what you're going to do, you're going to install one server. One server, you install it. What do you need? Windows, 2008, 2008 R2. Yeah. Another thing you need to choose between Lync Standards Edition and Enterprise Edition. You must have seen that. Lync Standards Edition, Enterprise Edition, there is no functionality difference. But the one thing you're missing is high availability. Standards Edition is one box, offering everything. One box fails, there you go, you've got nothing. Enterprise Edition, one box, two boxes, yeah. Create a pool, server connects to the pool, and one of the two servers will reply. Yeah? So you've got high availability. Okay? So install that, what do you get? You can install Lync. You can give everyone a headset. You can start playing with it. And what can you do? IM presence, yay. from within your Outlook by default. You can actually do PC-to-PC audio conferencing and video conferencing. Looking good? One server, that's all you need. One box, IM presence and conferencing. And then the first question that will pop up is, I want to work from home. Or I want to be able to connect from home, whatever. That's introducing Lync remote access. What do you need? Another little box. One single server, you need to add it. It's the Edge. It's the Lync Edge server role that you deploy. Yeah? So you deploy that. What do you gain? Remote users, they can connect. Users connect from outside. They connect to your environment. They will be able to authenticate and do whatever you want them to be able to do. Yeah? And the rest, what you get as well is federation. You need an Edge server if you want to federate. Because for remote users, you could say, you know what, nah, don't want that. I'm just going to open up VPN, direct access, no firewalls, just come in. You can have remote users. Federation can only be configured and enabled on the Edge server. Keep that in mind. Same goes for PIC, public IM connectivity, MSN, Yahoo, AOL, and anonymous users. Anonymous users. I want to have a conference and I want to invite someone from the outside. Someone I do not authenticate. That's an anonymous user. You need an Edge. Otherwise, it won't work. Simple. Okay? So anywhere, anytime, IM presence and conferencing. And this is when you're going to be very patient and very brave. And this is when you're going to talk to the PSTN people. And you're going to talk about enterprise voice. Ooh, we want to link that. You've got a few options. Option number one is, well, you know what? We've got a provider, we've got a telco provider that is offering a SIP trunk. Let's connect to that. Let's tell Lync, you know what I'm going to tell Lync? I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to add in a mediation server, put it separately, yeah? And every single time a client here is going to dial someone out here in the PSTN cloud, I'm going to configure my Lync server to forward that to my SIP trunk provider. And he will do the breakout, not a problem in the world. I can do that. Sounds like an option you could lift. Another option that you have, by the way, then you gain enterprise voice, of course. Yeah. Another option that you have is, and this is the one that we typically see, is I've got a PBX, I'm very fond of it, I want to use it, I've been using it for years, I don't want to get rid of it. Link it to Lync, that's why we call it Lync, so you can link it to Lync. And what you do is you simply say, okay, you know what, I'm going to configure my PBX. And if someone from here calls someone over here, I'm going to configure the coverage path of my PBX that he needs to direct that to my Lync environment. Is that going to work? It's SIP. What do you know about SIP? Oh yeah, it's that thing, and Microsoft has implemented that, and following the RFC standards, they have as well. We have as well. But every single SIP vendor or implementer uses its own little techniques. And that's why in most cases you may need a little gateway that will translate the SIP that he's talking into the SIP that we understand and vice versa. Another way of implementing voice would be the other way around, that you say, you know what, I don't want that. You know what we're going to do? We're just going to plug in a gateway right in front, build in all the intelligence into this one, and he will forward it to Lync or he will forward it to the legacy cell phone environment. See how simple that is? Think about all the different roles, how you implement them, add them to the topology. So when you start thinking about Lync and deploying it, it may be that your consultant or that yourself end up with a topology like this. So you choose whether you want enterprise voice or stuff like that. And then it's like, yeah, but when I look at the topology offered to me, I see a lot of more server roles. And what you see is, as you need, you add monitoring. I'm going to talk about that later on when I give the word to Wesley, talking about monitoring. Monitoring enables you to keep track of the quality. Quality of experience, what's going on, is the quality of the voice good, and stuff like that. That will be kept by the monitoring server. You can add that afterwards. You can add archiving. I want to keep track of everything that's being said. No archiving. Archiving will keep track of everything that you put in an IM message. Keep that in mind. Yeah? Group chat. Anyone ever seen group chat? It's the chat rooms that we've known for years, and now we bought Parlano a few years ago. It enables you to access a chat room and gain access to everything that has been said before. It's a separate server role, separate client. You can add that afterwards. And if you think about it, okay, this is really complicated. If you end up with a topology like this is what you get. But look at it as who's doing what. What's the front-end server doing? What's the SQL server? And what's he doing there? There you see an Exchange Unified Messaging server. Do you need it? Yes, you do. Why? For IM and presence? No. Conferencing? No way. Well, no, you don't need UM. You need Exchange. Would be nice for in your Outlook to schedule an online conference. If you've got Notes, for example, you can actually have an add-in to be able to schedule online meetings from Domino. So you can do that as well. You need unified messaging for voicemail. If Lync accepts a call and he cannot deliver it because it's busy, you don't want to answer it, Lync is there, what do I do with the call? He can only deliver it to unified messaging, and he will record a voicemail message and deliver it to the user. So when you think about enterprise voice in Lync, please make sure that you add in Exchange Unified Messaging. Okay? Going further, when we look at the further steps, what we've got, we've already covered this, the standard of the enterprise. Keep in mind that when we look at Standard or Enterprise Edition, you cannot upgrade. As in, looking at Exchange, when you start with the Standard Edition and you want to go to an Enterprise, you simply enter the new product key code, you restart a few things, and you're ready to rock the world and create 100 databases. With Lync, it's different. With Lync, you need to create a new pool and move the users. Okay, so you cannot in place upgrade from Standard to Enterprise. Make that for high availability. And for the databases, is there any database server that you're missing? Any version that you're missing on the slide? Don't have any prizes to give away. So. But I like to say this because you know that SQL has just released a new version, SQL 2012. Lync does not support SQL 2012 because SQL, I'm going to stand over here because he'll be mad now, because SQL has dropped support for a very important feature that we rely on with Lync. What's the feature? Don't remember even, but it's a very important. DMO. Voilà. They dropped support for it, so we're stuck with SQL 2008. These are the databases. Looking at the databases. And talking about Lync, it's like, well, we changed the way that we organize stuff when you look at OCS. We've got a central management store. And the central management store, we call that database XDS. Yeah? And what that contains is the configuration of your Lync environment. Other databases that you will see on your SQL server are RTC, which is really the real-time collaboration data. Yeah? The dynamic database, which will contain presence information, for example. Hey, I'm green, I'm red. Do not disturb. Information is stored in that database. RTCAP1 contains information that is taken from Active Directory and given to a user for its address book. Yeah? In the application store, several things, the car park services, dynamic database, the response group services, as well as dynamic information. We've got configuration information as well. Should you care about this? Not really. Just take a backup of your SQL database. But there is a small but. Yeah, location store has got another database, lists we call it. There is a thing that when you think about Lync and when you start with the Standard Edition, there's something you need to keep in mind. And that is, if you start with the Standard Edition just for testing, you know that the pilot for 20 users, 30 users, let's start with the Standard Edition, easy. Yeah? Let's start with that one. If you do that, you will see that in your Lync, on your Standard Edition, you will use SQL 2008 Express. You will have an instance that will contain the master central management store and the other databases. Every single Lync server that you install will have a SQL 2008 Express edition on it and will have a copy, a replica of that central management store database. Meaning your services of Lync, they will start up and they will look at the local configuration to see what should I do. What's possible, what's not possible, just to prevent single point of failures. Yeah? So if you have a Standard Edition, you will have a SQL Express with two instances. Yeah? This one is the one that your component services will connect to. This is the one that your topology builder, your management shell, your control panel will connect to. The master. Sounds like NT4 to me, BDC, BDCs, yeah? Master, backup. If you add in an enterprise pool, you will see that you do not have, on the SQL database, that you could have clustered, whatever, you do not have that master central management store. So if you start up with the Standard Edition, think about this, because you will know that your central management store, the master, the only writable one, is actually stored in a SQL 2008 Express edition. Yeah? And if you say, yeah, that's great, and how on earth am I supposed to handle that? Well, there is a way, there is a method of moving this one, the master, to another database. So you can do that. You can move the master between pools. There is a supported method of doing that. And if you want to know where your master is kept, if you say, I want to know which one has the master, what you can do is, and now you can switch screens, and then you will see that. Let's see, let's hope. Okay, fingers crossed. Okay. So what you do is, if you go to Add the Edit, you all know Add the Edit, I'm sure you do, it's the preferred method of managing your users and computers, isn't it? Yeah. So there you have in the configuration partition, when you scroll down to services, it's a real-time collaboration service, I hope you can see that, and there underneath the topology settings, there you have MS-RTC SIP global topology setting, and in the properties, exciting, let's see if it's there, you will actually see that during the installation of your first central management store, your first Lync server, when you prepare for the first Lync server, when you create a central management store, he will actually create a so-called service connection point. And that's the one that will be used, for example, by the topology builder to retrieve who to connect to retrieve the topology, to set the configuration. Yeah? So if you want to see that, use that. There are other ways, but this is one way of doing it. Now let's see if I can switch back. Switch back. Okay. Okay. Resiliency. Don't we just love resiliency? Looking at resiliency in Lync, well, we've got our pool. Interesting. We've got our pool, so we log on to any server in the pool. Brilliant. What we've done in Lync is we've actually expanded a lot on the high availability features of voice, enterprise voice. Yeah? So what we're actually doing is, and here you can actually see it, so this is actually every single front-end server, you can sign into that one, and the back-end server has got the user services component. Think of this, you sign into Lync, you are serviced by any of the Lync server in the pool, and the conferencing information, the presence information is stored in the back-end database. You sign in with that. Okay? So if you want to have high availability, what you can see is we can actually work with backup registrars. So here we can see Bob, and Bob will actually sign in, will use the component services and the registration services from Enterprise Edition pool number 1. And when we add in a different pool, Enterprise Edition pool 2, we can see that Alice is signing into that. What you can see here is that in case this little pool is not available, we can actually set up a backup registrar tool. So what this does is when we provision the user, when you sign in, we are provisioning the user with a ton of information. If you want to look at it, enable logging, use the snooper tool and have a look at everything that's provisioned to the user. You will actually see, okay, oh, that's my backup register. Could be interesting. If this one is not available, I'm just going to sign into that pool. Be very careful when you do that, because when Alice is signing in to Bob's data center, Alice will have voice. Alice will not have the conferences that she scheduled, because they are here, they are not there in that database. So keep that in mind. High availability often boils down to enterprise voice high availability. Same goes for a branch office. There we work with the survivable branch appliance, where Joe is signing in. He will actually sign into that, could be easier, and then he will actually use the component services from the enterprise pool. And what you will see is that if the link goes down, what will he have? Voice. Yeah? So keep that in mind. Pictures. We love taking pictures. You all got a Windows Phone 7, don't you, where you can use to take pictures. Now, this is not really what I'm talking about here. This is the picture, the Lync 2010 and my picture. If you've been running Outlook 2010 and you've been using Exchange 2010, you must have seen the picture already. In Lync 2010, you can actually display the same picture. Where is that picture taken from? Oops. And that, well, you can actually see that, so I'm on top of thumbnail photo. What actually happens is that Lync will actually use an attribute that we store in Active Directory. It's been there for ages. It's not invented by Exchange, it's not invented by Lync, but we just use it. How do you populate it? Using SharePoint or Exchange. Using SharePoint, you need to profile, you need to make sure that there is a directory synchronization or a profile synchronization with the SharePoint My Site. With Exchange, you just use the Exchange Management Shell command, import recipient data property, and you're ready to go. It's not stored like a picture, like a JPEG file or something. It's stored hexadecimal. Yeah? So it's not like you look at your global catalog, you can actually see everyone's picture. Yeah? So if you choose in Lync, you have the option, and by the way, every single bullet that you see here that you can check, you as an administrator can prevent users from checking those bullets. You will be able to point to a URL. That URL is very interesting. Why? Because you can point to a Facebook picture. That's me just before I jumped out of a plane. I survived, as you can see. Yeah? So you see that? That's the Facebook picture. Now, what's the advantage of using this instead of that? This is the one stored in Active Directory, federation. Federation. So when you're federated, you will never ever, federation will never be able to show the picture that is stored inside Active Directory. It will not be provisioned to the federated partner. But if the federated partner can explore or browse to that URL, you will see that picture. Okay? So here you can see replicates to global catalog. There is a lot to do when talking about Exchange, about this. Should it be replicated to the global catalog? Yes or no? For Lync, yes. Otherwise, it won't work. If you want the picture, make sure that you check that using the schema snap-in that it's replicated to the global catalog. Yeah? Default size is 100 kilobyte. You can even upgrade it to 30 megabyte. Wouldn't do that though, but you never know why you would do it. Exchange will limit it to 10 kilobits. Okay. How do you control that? Of course, everything can be controlled. CS client policy. Yeah. It's not stored in the galcontacts.be. It's not stored in the database, the contacts database that users can download when connecting to Lync. This means that when a user clicks on someone, they will retrieve the picture. Lync will use the address book web query for that and will keep track of the photo hash, the relative part of the photo, and the size of the picture. When looking at this, you already know, okay, so that means when I want to see someone's picture, it's not stored. That means that Lync is going to fetch it, and Lync would cache it. So this means you already know, like, oh shit, it's cached. So that means if someone changes the picture, it could be that it takes a while before other users see it. Now you see why, because it's cached. It's both client-side, on your client's machine, and it's cached on the server side here. So if you look at your server, you can go look at the photo files. Yeah? So they are cached. And every single night, there is a single process running that will actually update it. Here you can see number of cached photo deleted, 11. It's in a POC environment. That's why only 11. That's a process that runs every single night. Of course, you can force that using the link management shell. Yeah? Update CS address book, and it will be flushed immediately. Yeah? So keep that in mind. If someone says, I see a different picture than he does, yeah. Wait till tomorrow, sleep over it, yeah. Or you can say, okay, I'll change it. Yeah? So that's what you can do. Okay. Before we go to the tools and then the monitoring piece, I'm already waking him up. First about NAT. I know the sun is shining outside, but, well, let's see what we can talk about. When talking about remote access, we talk about Edge. And the Edge server provides you with external user access, so you can connect. Public IM connectivity, already seen that. Federation possibilities with other enterprises. IM presence only, yeah, or all modalities depending on what you set up. When we look at the Edge server, there are a few facts. Fact number 1, Lync only supports IPv4. Lync does not support IPv6. Has anyone already configured their servers with IPv6? I'm from the old ages sometimes, I think, because I always refer, oh, that's 10.10.10.100. I don't know if I can do that with IPv6. But just remember, Lync does not support it. Yeah? You need 2 network adapters in your Lync server. No 4. 4 are not supported. 2, as in 2. One connecting to the internal network and one connecting to the bad and evil outside world. That's what you need. Yeah? You should make sure that they are not writable to each other. We often refer to that as Lync does not support the weak host model, where, well, no matter what, every single, if the public-facing internet site would actually accept packets that are addressed to the internal-facing site and stuff like that. We do not support that. We only support the strong host model. Keep that in mind. This is live. Here we see an edge. We've got external IP address, and we've got an external one and an internal one. Now, I know that IP addresses are not really as in, yeah, just open up the closet and just take out 3 official IP addresses. It's barely done like that. So what we see in a lot of cases, we see that we've got an edge server with only one, where's my light, with only one IP address available for Lync. Yeah? What you can do is change the ports. And then we see, okay, so for SIP, you're not using 443, you're failing back to 5061, which is good, because that's the one that you have to have for federation with PIC, with MSN. That's using port 5061 as well. And then we tell you, well, go for web conferencing to 444, and make sure for audio video conferencing that you open up 443 and UDP for 3478. Why do we recommend that you use 443 for audio video? Because then from the outside we can see that in a lot of firewalls it's allowed to go out via port 443. So when you're at a customer side or somewhere else, you will be able to do an audio call. Yeah, you won't be able to share stuff, but at least you will be able to call someone because that port is allowed to go out. Yeah? And internally, not a lot that you need to configure. Yeah, well, these ports need to be open. It's a lot of fun talking about Lync and talking to the network people, getting them to open up their firewalls. If there's simple, so selected feature of this edge pool, so make sure that you have the web conferencing, that the combination of IP address and port is unique. But that's not really Lync related, that's just default IP related. Wonderful world, the best of all worlds. You've got an edge server, you've got 3 external IP addresses. Of course, make sure you only have one network adapter card. The primary should be the access edges, and then the secondary ones should be for the web conferencing and the audio video conferencing, and the internal one. Okay. There's one thing I should mention. If you want to have external access, is it enough to have an edge server? Nope, it's not. Why not? Because you need to have a reverse proxy as well. Don't forget that. You need a reverse proxy as well. Because when I connect to the access edge server, I will be provisioned with all the information from the inside, and I will be able to connect to my audio video edge server. I will be able to connect to my web conferencing server. But hey, I've been provisioned with the URL to download my address book, to be able to do distribution list expansion. That URL should be published with a reverse proxy. Don't forget that. So next to an edge, make sure that you've got that reverse proxy set up. Now we talk about NATing. NATing is very interesting because you don't want users from the outside to know your official IP addresses from your audio or from your edge server. So what will happen is your client will get these IP addresses, and that will be translated, that will be NATed to the internal IP addresses that are used. Is that supported? Absolutely yes. Are we happy about that? Yes. Is there something we need to keep in mind? Of course, otherwise it wouldn't be in here. Yeah? What you need to remember is, if you do this, your client will connect to the edge server. Your edge server has got the access edge, has got web conferencing, and has got audio video. Audio video is UDP, which is a stateless protocol. So what will happen is your client connects to the edge server and will provision the client with the fully qualified domain names of these two. But typically, in a packet, you will see the IP address of the external audio video edge, which is not IP3 star. It's not the NATed address. And that's why when you look at all the documentation about Lync and NATing and audio video edge, you need to make sure that your client will receive a publicly routable IP address for the audio video. Yeah? How do you do that? How do you do that? It's very simple. You use the tool that you love and adore in Lync. It's a topology builder. When you go to the topology builder, you will see that at once when you add in the edge server, there you will actually specify the external IP addresses. So there you will specify the not NATed IP addresses, so you will specify the internal ones. That's what you will specify. Yeah? And then what you should remember to do is, you need to tell Lync, hang on, if my client is going to connect to the audio video edge, my client shouldn't know about these official IP addresses that I've been giving to my edge server. My client needs to know that he needs to connect to that one. Hang on, that one. Yeah? So if I don't do that, what will happen? My edge server will say, oh, IP1, that's 1010, whatever, IP2, IP3, but my client cannot connect to IP3. My client needs to know this one, the publicly routable IP addresses. How does my client get access to that one? Because I need to tell this edge server, hey, don't talk about this one, just talk about that one. And that's what we do. And how do we do it? Topology Builder, you add in your IP addresses, and there you go. Public IP address. Yeah? So that's the reason why it's in there. Yeah? Make sure that you specify the public IP address that is used by the NAT. Remember that. If you don't do this, audio video won't work. Is that bad? No, but it's not good user experience, so keep that in mind. Yeah? So nothing is absolutely supported with Lync. Load balancing, Edge, we just love load balancing. Yeah, you can do that for Exchange. If you want to know more about that, have a look at the app session. You can do load balancing DNS-wise. It's not round robin. It's not round robin. Yeah? So what really happens is in Lync we really truly support DNS load balancing because we made our applications aware of DNS load balancing. That's why we support it. Yeah? Of course, you're still allowed to use hardware load balancing. Yeah? You do require hardware load balancing if you are communicating with applications that don't know anything about DNS load balancing. And there you go, OCS R2, OCS, unified messaging for remote users, or if you want to have the connectivity to public IM users. Yeah? That's when you still need hardware load balancing. It's like when you still require hardware load balancing for HTTP traffic. Yeah? So how do we do that? Imagine this, DNS load balanced edge, we've got an edge server, perfect, 2, brilliant, yeah. So we can look at our DNS records and we can actually see that we've got 2 records for the access edge, we've got 2 for the web conferencing edge, and we've got 2 for the audio video edge, easy, IP 1, 4, 2, 5, whatever, that's what we got, okay. When we connect to an edge server, we will be provisioned, yeah, and we will be provisioned. When I connect, I will go to DNS and I will connect to this edge server. What will it do? Remember the stateless protocol, UDP. I will get back the first packet that is sent. I will get back the IP address of my edge server 1. Yeah? And he's the one, keep that in mind, my edge server will actually go to the internal front-end server and negotiate credentials that I can use to have audio-video conferences. Yeah? And I can do that. DNS server returns a randomized IP address, and I'm happy to go. Okay? Now there is this thing about load balancing and nothing. So what will actually happen is, we've got our edge server. I don't want people from the outside to actually look at the log files and retrieve these IP addresses. I don't want them to do that. Yeah? So what we use is nothing. We use load balancing. Is that possible? Sure it is. Same thing. We're just adding in 2 records for the access edge, web conferencing edge, and audio video edge. That's what we do. Yeah? So we will make sure, we will configure our edge server in the topology builder to return that IP address and that one instead of the private ones. That's what we will do. So he can provision the client with that IP address. There is just one tiny little problem with this one, the hardware load balanced edge. And why is that? Can you already see why it is? It's kind of normal, because what will happen is, just imagine I'm connecting and I'm configuring and I'm saying, oh, FIB3, let's hand that back to the client. Yeah? But when my client connects to this one, this virtual IP address, will it go to that server or that one? What will happen? Could be an issue. Because when I say, okay, audio edge, I need to connect to, for the audio video to this edge server, he has negotiated credentials that will allow me to do audio-video conferencing. He has done that with the internal front-end server. What if I get the credential from this edge server, and next time I'm going to connect to that one? I have an issue, because the credentials won't work. I won't be able to connect. Yeah? And that's why we officially state, in all the documentation that you can find on the internet, that NAT and hardware load balancing is not possible. That's why we say that. But if you want to use hardware load balancing, go ahead and do it, but please check the vendor. Check with the vendor. For example, I've added in the link that will list the load balancer partners, so the certified load balancer partners that we support and that we really encourage you to have a look at. And I've added in an example from Kemp that is really doing that, will go into details about how should we do that with source netting, destination netting and stuff like that, and how you should configure it for the audio-video edge server. This is just an example of Kemp. I could have easily added an example of F5. Yeah, or any other approved hardware load balancer. But keep it in mind, look at it, check it out. If it's not working, start the snooper tool, enable the logging tool on your service, on the client, and check it out. Yeah? What is going on? Okay, so I've added in here, well, just a few things that he added here. Yeah? Okay. Last thing, before talking about monitoring, is the tools. When you look at Lync, Lync is a Microsoft product, is a successor of OCS, and we do have quite a lot of tools. I've just added in a few tools that you should keep in mind. I'm not talking about the resource kit tools. There are tons of by the way, when we talk about Lync and resource kit, there are two things that you need to keep in mind. One, there are two versions. Whoa. And that's the second thing to keep in mind. You've got the resource kit tools, so the snooper tool, the applications, the response group configuration agent, the response group agent that enables you to have a look at who's signed into which response group and stuff like that. Okay, that's the resource kit. And there is a book that we call the Lync 2010 resource kit that you can download for free, for nothing, from the Microsoft website. So there is a book and there are tools, completely different. Yeah? But they go perfectly together. Get yourself a gift for summer, whatever, and download them. It's free, so you can do that. Other tools I want to talk to you about, I added in the URL, you can see that here. Have a look at the Lync adoption and training kit. Introducing Lync is perfect. You're all in IT. You'll love that, chatting and testing and playing with it. But try thinking about that secretary. Try thinking about that person that is sitting somewhere, stuck in a room, and has never ever touched MSN Messenger, never ever thought about Facebook or Yammer or Twitter. Oh, we can say Yammer now. Twitter, whatever. Yeah? Think about adoption and training kit. Have a look at these. Yeah? They will actually enable you to have a customized training specific for lawyers in the company, specific for secretaries, specific for sales managers, marketing managers, stuff like that. Have a look at that. Very interesting. Another thing you've got there, the I am an expert. I am an expert is the enables you to you simply just double click I am an expert. You ask a question, and depending on what people have filled out in their profile in SharePoint, you will be put in contact with an expert on that subject. Very interesting. Free download. I stress that maybe too much. Free download. Conversation analyzer, that will show you with whom you talk a lot. Yeah, translator, interesting, so you can pretend to know everything about Chinese, whereas you don't really know what you're saying. That's the conversation translator. Group chat stress, tapped conversation. It's like, I start a conversation with Wesley, I start another conversation with Koen, I start another conversation with Bart, with Els. I've got 4 Lync pop-ups. 4. With the tapped conversations, you will have it in one single window, which may make it a bit easier. Yeah? Have a look at it. Download it. Very interesting. Connectivity analyzer. I'm at home. I can't connect to Lync. Maybe it's a problem with DNS. Maybe it's a problem with internet. Maybe it's a problem with whatever. Have a look at that website. One of the things that we often hear is you are not thinking that we are going to give a username and a password to Microsoft. Yeah. Create a test user, use that. You no need to provide us with the enterprise administrator's password, no need to do that. Create a test user, provide that. And the most difficult thing about this test is that, the captcha. That's the most difficult one. I can imagine you have to do it at least 3 times before you get it right. And he will do a few tests and he will tell you can export it and he will tell you if everything's all right, certificate-wise, DNS lookup-wise and stuff like that. Very interesting, just for easy troubleshooting. Looking at this, you might say, yeah, but not really what I'm looking for. Have a look at this. The Remote UC Troubleshooting Tool V1. Yeah? It's a tool that will actually give you with a list of, as you can see, I search for vankriegingen.be, will tell you which DNS records are registered, if the necessary DNS records have been registered for devices. For federation, remember for federation you need that service record, SIP federation TLS, if you want to have automatic discovery. Look at it. The mobile clients, he will tell you if everything's all right. Rukt. Sounds funny, but the remote UC troubleshooting tool, have a look at it. Download site is over there with a lot of information on it. Capacity calculator. Capacity calculator, how many times you end up and like, okay, I've got like 100 users, they want to do IM presence, how many servers do I need? Can I virtualize? Sure, you can virtualize, you can use whatever you want. Really, as long as it's a supported hypervisor. Hyper-V, VMware, yes we do. So you can actually use that. Using that capacity calculator, he will tell you, keep in mind that many users, that many calls, you need to have that type of hardware available. And if you really like, yeah, but those tools are too easy, really too damn easy, have a look at this one. Take your time for that one. This is really, it's a hard one. I can just, okay, I'll just, can I switch? Okay, so let's see. So this is the first, so this is the capacity calculator. Yeah, you can see that. You specify how many users, and in the end, this is what you end up with. So how many servers you need, virtualized and physicals. Yeah. So if you virtualize or go physical, gives you an idea, gives you a very, well, something you can interpret that, you can change that, but gives you a very general idea. And you just need to specify how many users are going to be using application sharing, web conferencing, and stuff like that. This is the more difficult one, the more challenging one, the bandwidth calculator, because you can already have flow charts, don't we love them? So flow charts. There you can actually specify, okay, configure the global parameters, click, and then you're ready to go. You specify that, and depending on the outcome, you will have graphical results, and he will tell you how much bandwidth, which is the number one question, I think. How much bandwidth do I need? Well, it kind of depends on what you want to do. IM, not that much. Presence, nothing. Forget about it. Video, high definition video. Yeah, it's a bit more. Yeah, so keep that in mind. Could be interesting. Yeah, so then it's a very interesting calculator. It's interesting having a help. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So brings me to the last topic, monitoring. Yeah, and monitoring. What we do with monitoring. Why do you use monitoring? Well, you deploy a monitoring server. It's a SQL. You deploy. That was funny. You deploy Lync, a monitoring server role. It requires SQL. Does it require the SQL, the full edition? No, you can actually use SQL Express. But with the monitoring server, you have the ability of deploying reports as well. And if you are using SQL Express, there are no reporting services. I put the blame entirely on SQL. Yeah, it's easy. Yeah, it's easy. The monitoring server will only keep track of quality of experience. So it will keep track of the mean opinion scores. It's kind of a value that we hand out to every single IM, audio, video, application sharing, every single thing that's going on your Lync server, we will hand out values to that. And that would be if 5,000 users were to listen to this conversation, they would mark it as a value of 1 being very, very bad, or a value of 5 being like perfect quality. Nothing's wrong with it. Yeah? We have created an algorithm to match 5,000 people's opinion. That's what we call the mean opinion scores, and that's what we keep track of in the quality of experience. We also keep track of call detail records. And call detail records is like, okay, so you're doing this with that person. Okay, you're doing this using Wi-Fi. You're doing this using this device or that device. Be very careful when you talk about Lync, and maybe you've been to a few booths here of certified device vendors that we've got. When you look for a device, it costs money. Yeah, you need to pay for a certified device. But please have a look, because these certified devices, we certify them because we guarantee that the quality that they give you is good, is perfect, close to perfect. Yeah? So that's the reason. And we keep track of that in the monitoring server. So it works with Standard Edition, Enterprise Edition, sure, yeah. So what will happen is, if you deploy the monitoring server role, every single Lync server will by default monitor, give its data to the monitoring server role. You need to specify, so you add in a monitoring server, and you tell a pool, well, now you're going to give all your monitoring server data to that monitoring server. Yeah? So that's what you do. You don't need System Center Operations Manager. You do if you say, yeah, but monitoring for me is more like I want to keep track if everything is up and running so that I know in advance before coming into the office that everything's down. Yeah? So that's why you may be interested in the System Center Monitoring, the Operations Manager. Yeah? Because by default, Lync only, well, offers you a lot, but it offers you the event log, yay, but it offers you as well the synthetic transactions to test a few things. Test the IAM sharing, application sharing, but SCOM will move that a bit further. Do you need reporting services? No. As already stated, you deploy the monitoring server role, and you can add in the default provided to you reports that we give you if you have the reporting services installed. Yeah. Reporting server can be a different server than the SQL server, so no need. You can change that afterwards as well. Okay? So what do? You launch the topology builder. Interesting. Yeah, as you can see, you install Lync, control panel, deployment wizard, logging tool. You launch this one, topology builder. What will he do? He will connect to Active Directory. He will search for that service connection point to get a hold of the central management store master, the one that is holding the writable copy of that one. He will connect to it. And you're ready to rock the world, and you're ready to add in a new monitoring server. Yeah, see how difficult that is? And then you, of course, after doing that, because by the way, once you do that, you can actually link it to a pool, multiple pools. You can have one monitoring server tracking information from multiple pools. You can do that. Yeah. And then, of course, before you publish it, you need to, before you can install it, you need to publish it. By publishing it, what will happen is when you run this, when you run this setup, the first thing that you will see is that your links, the machine that you're running this from, yeah, will check the central management store and will retrieve, okay, what am I supposed to be? Oh, I'm supposed to be a monitoring server. Okay, let's do that. Yeah, so that's why you first update your topology, you publish that, and then you will be able to install it. Difficult? No. Easy? Yes. And after that, step 3, you can deploy the monitoring server reports. Yay. Difficult? Nope. It's easy. And then you're ready to rock the world, and then you're ready to have a look at all the key metrics per call. Yeah? Then you're ready to have a look at, oh, people are complaining about the quality of a call. Maybe there is jitter, maybe there is latency. Maybe something is wrong with what codec is being used. Be careful when we talk about MOS values. The maximum MOS value, in theory, it's 1 and 5. 5 is the maximum. But it depends on the codec that is being used. Keep that in mind. So don't expect a 5 and you're calling the PSTN network. Yeah? It won't be, because the maximum is about 3.4 something. Yeah? And of course, this is interesting. If you're evaluating Lync, have a look at the quality that is rendered by the devices that you're using. Interesting to decide which device you're using, which brand you will be using. To give you an example of why you would use a monitoring server role is a typical help desk call. I couldn't see the panoramic view. You know the roundtable? Everybody knows the roundtable provided by Polycom? You can see your primary, you can see the active speaker, and you have the panoramic view. That will show you everybody in the room. Yeah? So you get a typical call from someone, I didn't see the panoramic view, and that's all you get. At least he was able to say it's a panoramic view, yeah, so you're good to go. And then you're like, okay, use the monitoring server. Yeah? And there what you can actually do, you can go to the monitoring server reports. So in your Lync control panel, there is a link to your monitoring server. Of course, you can go to the monitoring server itself if you've got the reporting services. I use it this way, go there, okay? And now what you can actually do, you can go out and you can ask for a user activity report. And there's the one that called me, there's him. He called me and he said he didn't have a panoramic view. At least I know there was a video involved. I can see that. There was video involved. Step number 1, that's good. But then I can click, what you can see here, I can save this, I can export this, I can print it. I can, no, whatever. You can do it if you want to. Yeah. So I want to have a look at the details. And here I see, yeah, cool, this demo environment. I've got this user talking to that user. These are the APIs that they're using, the link line that they're using. Yeah, interesting. Not really a lot that I can see here. But then, when I go further, I see this. I can see that he was using Lync for Mac. I don't have anything against Lync for Mac. Let's make that clear. But in Lync for Mac, you don't see the panoramic view. You don't see it. So that's why he didn't see it. So while he's calling you and being mad, I didn't see the panoramic view, you can say, yeah, but that's because you were running it on your Mac. It's normal. Well, you figure your way out of it, but you know why he didn't see it. So that's one way of using the monitoring data to troubleshoot ad hoc instances, troubleshoot ad hoc things that are missing. Or people that complain, quality was really bad. You can say, yeah, well, you were using an uncertified device. What do you want? Yeah? So you could do it like this. Yeah? Because this is here, you can actually see, he was using the roundtable for audio. Yeah? You can see the render device, the capture device. That's what you can see, all this. Interesting? Yay! Are you going to use it? Sure. Do you want to have evolutions? Go to the dashboard and you will get fancy reports. And then you might say, yeah, fancy reports, great, cool. For me, not for my management. And what report? I mean, all these things that you can monitor and all these things that you can do. What's the use of it? How am I going to present this? Use this information to present it to my manager. And this is the point where I say, you might think, oh, what now? What's next? And this is when I hand over the word to my colleague, which we call at Microsoft Belgium, we call him B.I. Joe. It's not G.I. Joe. Yeah? So B.I. Joe, Wesley Bachman.
Thank you.
Here you go.
Well, I don't need my clicker. You took all my time, so...
I did not.
No, just 10 minutes over. Okay, so... so let me switch here first. So, a big warning. I'm going to open Excel. Yeah, I know. I'm going to switch. I'm going to open Excel. So if you want to leave now.
We don't see anything.
Yeah, I know. I'm duplicating.
Okay. We still see. We know you'll be urgent. We know that.
It's coming.
Okay.
There we go. So this is probably the most shocking part of the presentation. I actually have Excel in front of an IT Pro audience. But you will see that it's relatively useful to very useful, I hope. So here we see a typical Excel file, but it has some special back-end stuff going on there. So first of all, you see a nice little dashboard here with a couple of high-level information. So here you see the number of sessions, for example, over the time of the day with the unanswered rate. So the data, maybe before I speak about the results. So the data is actually coming from a customer Ilse and myself visited. So it's data coming from a proof of concept. So that's why you see an enormous unanswered rate probably. I would hope everyone would answer their phone a bit more than in this case, but it's just test data. So that's why you see those numbers that might not be so interesting sometimes. But anyway, so we have the number of calls over the time of the day and also the times when people don't answer. So between 1 and 3, there is not many people answering their phone, which is probably quite normal. And you can also do some things like filtering here. So I could say, I just want to see the data for March or February and March. Or I could choose which media type. Were it audio calls? Was it instant messaging? Those types of things. Here I have a little distribution of the call duration, because the customer that we talked to said that this is really something that telcos like to know when you're negotiating about prices. What is the typical duration of your calls? So how many people have short calls, how many people do longer calls, and so on. So you see that in...
How did you get that data?
I'm going to explain that right now, yes. She's impatient. I mean, that's with all that instant messaging. So I have a couple of other dashboards. So for example, in this case, so here are the users, and I can look at their behavior. So this user did mostly internal calls. He likes to do things like file transfers, etc. Apparently, he's not much of a talker. This is again that distribution, but for this user, how much time does it take for him to respond? So you can see this is someone who responds on an average of 1 second, which is good. But once you get him on the line, it's hard to get rid of him. So all his calls are almost over 5 minutes. Looking at this user, for example, this one is a bit easier to talk to, but it takes 10 seconds before he actually answers his call. So might want to take some patience when you call him. So top 20 by duration per phone number, the numbers dialed, for example. So how many sessions were started for a certain number. And also important when talking to telcos, what are the concurrent users that you're seeing doing audio calls typically in that case. And now to answer Ilse's question. How do I get to this data? Well, I use the tool, or an add-in, I should say, called Power Pivot for Excel. And who knows Power Pivot for Excel? Oh, okay, cool. Who was at the keynote? A couple of people? Okay. So Power Pivot for Excel is a free add-in for Excel 2010, which will allow you to capture data from a lot of different data sources, and obviously SQL Server being one of them. And we'll structure this data internally in a columnar store and using in-memory technology to make it respond fast to user queries. So what I did in this case, or what we did in this case, is we actually imported some data from the Lync CDR database and the RT-CAP database. And we imported that into the Power Pivot environment. And once you have it there, you can start doing some calculations on top of that information in a relatively easy syntax. The syntax is called DAX, Data Analysis Expressions, which sounds pretty interesting. But basically it comes down to Excel syntax. So for example, if I want to count the number of sessions, I just do I don't know if it's readable, but I just do count from the table. If I want to do the duration, I do a sum. So it's relatively simple syntax that you can use. Now you might want to know, how can I use this information in my own environment? Well, if you install the Power Pivot add-in, you have this, and you open the Power Pivot environment, you go to Design. You look at existing connections, and here you will see two connections. So one being LCS CDR, which is all the call data records, so all the details about all the sessions being done on the Lync database. And we have the RT-CAP1 database, or RT-CAP database, which we use to get the display names, because as Ilse explained, this is what is synchronizing between Active Directory and Lync, so you can get display names. We anonymize them to user with a number, but usually you would see people's names, of course.
And just to add in here, it's the LCS CDR comes from the monitoring server database, yeah? And the RT-CAP1 database, it comes from the front-end server. A lot of people ask me, where is the RT-CAP database? Well, it's from the front-end server. The other one is from the monitoring server databases.
Correct, of course. So if you want to change the connection, you just click Edit here, enter the server name, your SQL Server in that case, of course, and the database that you want to get information from. Normally you should save, and that's quite obvious. You do the same for RT-CAP, and then you can just go to the Home tab and go to refresh all, and we will capture all the data that is living inside your own monitoring server, so you can start and go ahead building these types of dashboards on your own environment. Now, this is of course nice, but it's still living on your own desktop, so if we talk about sharing this with your manager, might be not too easy to send around files, and especially if you're capturing a lot of information. I actually wanted to do the demo with Microsoft call records, but then I found out that my laptop, although quite powerful, is not really a server. We do a bit too much of Lync activity, apparently, so it didn't really work on my laptop, or not in a nice way. But in theory, the Power Pivot as such is not really limited in the matter of how large it can get. It is just limited by the amount of memory that you have in your machine. And if you really want to start working against large volumes, you can also upgrade those Power Pivot workbooks to a analysis services cube, or, well, tabular model, actually, I should say, which will allow you to really work with hundreds of millions of rows in that sense. Okay, so how can I share this? Well, this is pretty easy. If I look at File, Save and Send, I can just save it on a SharePoint. So everyone knows what Excel Services is, for example? A couple of people. So Excel Services will basically visualize this information in a browser, so you don't need to install Excel on everyone's machine. And you get kind of the same experience, but just in a more read-only fashion. So if I open this in my browser, you'll see that it will look pretty much like Excel. I still have the slicing, so I can still filter through this information. but I cannot change those things. I cannot edit anything, so that's it's just for display purposes. But still, although managers usually very much like using Excel, mostly they are in love with Excel, but over time we tend to have an interest in having some more interesting ways of looking at information. So those of you who were at the keynote probably saw a tool called Power View, or maybe in another session. And Power View is actually a very interactive tool which will allow you to do some pretty interesting and interactive reports in a very easy fashion. So looking at my Excel file, which is living on my SharePoint, if I hover this, you see that I get a nice little icon here saying Create Power View Report. So if I click this, I will go to my report design environment, which is all based on in my browser, so I don't need to install anything for this. Well, except for Silverlight, as this tool is based on Silverlight version 5 right now. And here I can start building my own visualizations on top of that same information that I just imported into that Power Pivot or Excel file. So let's say, for example, I want to see the total number of successful calls, and I want to know this for, well, why not the different users, of course. So I get my username, and I want to see this as a column chart, for example. So I can enlarge this a little bit. And now I could do the same for media type, let's say, and also the total number of successful calls here. Look at this as a bar chart. I'm going to enlarge this. And this is being skewed a bit because I have a lot of sessions without a valid username, so let me filter those out. So I can go to the filtering option. I'm going to say username, everything except for calls where you don't have a username in place. And let me see that same information over the time of the day, for example. And let's enlarge this a bit. There we go. Yep. And see this as a line chart. So now I have built a quite interesting little dashboard where I have a lot of information all on, in one blink of an eye. So let's maybe sort this differently. And now if I want to know, for example, what user 28 in this case was doing, I can just click user 28 and you'll see that it will automatically adapt the other charts in this dashboard too, so I can get a good feeling of what this person was actually doing. Do we need 5 minutes for questions? 5 minutes for questions?
Just show the
Or you want to go?
balls.
You want to go home? I'm going to show it. I'm going to show it. I'm going to show it. But then I'm going to my...
But it's not like we will go up in the thin air once the session's over. They can come up and ask questions.
Yeah, but people want to go home. Yeah?
They want to go home. Me too. Come on, hurry.
Okay, okay. So I changed the style here to orange since we're in Amsterdam. This is the color. So this is the same one of the views that I just showed, but in a different color, orange. Pretty good. No, so here I have another view in that same report, which will again show me some more detailed information about the users, for example. So again, here if I want to look at user 40, I can see his average time to respond, the number of calls he didn't respond to, the number of calls he actually did, and here I can see the same split over the time of the day, but in this case spread out over the different types of sessions, so the audio calls, the instant messaging, and so on. I'm going to keep the bouncing balls for the last one.
Show the devices.
Yeah, that's why. Because Ilse
there is a favorite one, because when people ask me certified devices and what's the price difference and why is that, and this is where the call quality comes in.
So one of the things I didn't use in the previous one is actually the call quality, but that information is just as all the other information, just readily available in the Lync database. And here we have, well, same principle. We took some data from that session details database and one of the other databases, the QOE, I believe, yes,
yeah.
Quality of Experience database, to combine that information to actually show you the quality of the different devices that you have in your organization. So kind of the same idea, but what's important here is if I select a user, you will get the famous MOS value, which I never heard of before, but I'm an expert in MOS values now. And so here you see, for example, if you look at the Jabra headset, the quality here is significantly better than this one here, for example. And now I'm doing a search on the specific user, but it's free-form reporting. So if I want to just see an overall of all my devices and the average, I could easily do that in the same fashion here. So this could also be something useful if you have users complaining about the voice quality of Lync. So you can actually see, are they actually using their headset? Because they might have a headset, but knowing myself, I think it's kind of a burden to go to my backpack and then take that headset out of there and then open that bag and put it on my head. So I sometimes use my cell phone. Sorry, I'm lazy. Sorry.
You're lazy. Oh.
But I just got a new headset, so I'll use it now. So I promise. Okay, so this one is not yet on my blog, but we will be looking at how we can get that on our blogs too. So you can also start from this, or our blog, because you posted it too. I'm sorry. Now for the bouncing balls, because otherwise Ilse will kill me.
Yes.
So another very good question that people typically ask in an organization is, well, we just bought Lync, that's nice, but what are people actually doing? Are they actually using Lync? Or like me, are they using their cell phone because they're lazy, for example? Well, that's one of the things that you can very nicely visualize in Power View. And for those of you who saw the keynote, you probably already saw the bouncing balls, but anyway. So here we have a nice little view going over time and looking at the number of sessions that people did, the number of sessions for that specific day, and what type of session they were doing. Were they doing voice calls? Were they instant messaging? Those types of things. But one thing that you can do in the Power View solution is you have this nice little play button here. And if you press on the play button, it will actually go over time to show you, in this case, the adoption of your Lync environment. What are people doing with my Lync environment? Yeah? And if I want to compare two things, for example, so if I want to see, are people more interested in audio or instant messaging, we can see here in this proof of concept that it was clearly audio who was being tested very frequently, while instant messaging was a bit less. But while preparing, I also noticed something else, Ilse. If you look at the beginning of March, you will see that purple bubble here. Yeah, and it's going to, someone was testing, I think, file transfers or something, because this is really becoming active and then disappearing off the radar. So it was tested. That's clear. So this was just to give you an idea of the possibilities, of course. You can get a lot more information out of there. So as Ilse said, how were they connected, Wi-Fi, using a cable. And there's really tons and tons and tons of information inside the Lync database. You only have to find a way to get it out. And I think by using Power Pivot, it's relatively easy for anyone who can use Excel. And if you want really the cherry on top of it, you can use Power View to visualize it to your management. So we hope we gave you some ideas with this. And we look forward to your feedback on the solution. And now we're going to switch. Okay.
Switch, yeah.
So Ilse will show you some resources, I guess, where you can find this this Excel file, so you can start working with yourself. And one, yes. There's a question there.
Is it easy to convert those to reporting services and get those users? Can you write a blog post?
So converting, so the question was, can you easily convert it to a reporting services view? There's no automatic conversion of a Power View report to reporting services. But what you can do is you can use a Power Pivot file as a source for reporting services. So you could build the same kind of visualization inside reporting services using that same Excel file as a backend, basically, where the data is stored. So that is possible.
So with that, just emails, tweet accounts, blog accounts. Do not hesitate to send us questions. It could be, though, that you get a question back. Could we please have your monitoring databases?
Good question.
That would be
appreciated.
That would be brilliant, because we're always relying on the same customer. My husband. He's getting tired of it. Okay, so with that, I want to wish you a very pleasant flight, drive, train, walk, Bart here, walk home, and hope to
10-minute walk.
see you back at any other event. And if you have any other questions, just come up or tweet, blog, whatever. Okay?
Thank you.